Five Diamonds bills. Joe, you went through this with Tom Kelnick some time ago.
I don't see that any discussion necessary here, based on, once again, hot off the presses, last minute information. That just doesn't fly, and I'll tell you what, I'm gonna do my best. Every meeting that we're sitting here, if I find my packet short-suited, one at every meeting, and find out I get, when I arrive, various pieces of paper that apply to the day, to the activity, to the agenda for the evening, I am going to simply request tabling it because of that reason.
Fair enough.
There is no
Let me ask you a question, Mike. Are you under the impression that I am the one holding the information back from
I
you?
didn't say that.
What are you implying? Because you're certainly implying that.
These packets are not complete, and information for adequate discussion can't happen when we're given stuff at the last minute.
Okay,
I'm not
I'm
implying
jumping in
any-
because I put the packets together, okay? In there was the invoices in your packet of the individualized packets of the invoices themselves. However, yes, I did give you a last minute because I have been out of the office at a clerk's conference on Wednesday. I have been doing my due diligence in the office of doing budget workshop and the other meetings that are coming too. So, yes, I have had work this out. I worked till 5:30 today since 7 a.m. this morning to make sure that at least you had something, because the question keeps coming up as to what these billings are for and why and how did we get to this darn number. You can sit down with me any day to go through it within the QuickBooks. I never ever said no to anybody to sit down and go through it. I asked if we sit down with the time, and that's fine. I wrote it all out for everyone this evening. I will go over with it. If you would like to go through the billing, that is fine. I wrote it down word for word. There is backup documentation for everything so the auditor can see it, because it is an open book for all. If you would like to have that for the last minute, I am sorry, but I am trying my best to get it all done.
Jamie, we're
And
not,
with the
we're not
information for the
blaming you,
ladies in the
Jamie.
office. No, but
No,
it is,
but
the
it-
packet is on me. The
Right,
packet is the
but it would
office
be-
ladies here and getting it out. And if you guys are having some difficulties, look at the amount of paperwork that's in there. You guys are coming back here every time to add more verbiage into those minutes. I'm sorry, it gets long. They're 10 pages long. Give me a break.
Jamie, we're not blaming you.
Who are you blaming?
We're not blaming anybody, but we shouldn't get information like this. There's board members sitting on this board now that would scream and yell and have a tantrum if they were given information at their desk when we come to the meeting. I'm not blaming anybody for not getting it to us, but we need it to look at before the night of the meeting so we
I
can.
understand that, and if Advanced Disposal just gave me the emails and I was out at a conference and it only came to my email, I can only give it to you till the next morning at 7 a.m. I mean, I gave it to you guys early enough, I left the thing. I mean, there is only so much the office ladies and I can do within with the packets. Then, then don't put it on the agenda for next time.
Constructive, Jamie. And that is exactly right. You hit the nail on the head. If we don't have all the information needed, let's not put it on the agenda.
Right.
There's nothing on you. You do a marvelous job with
Yes.
your gals in the office. No, don't even take offense to that. If it may sound that way, it's an error.
I'm requesting for the information to be held off just a little bit longer to Chairman Marek, because it's not gonna be able to get done. I'm requesting that. So
Okay.
it's not like it's not being sought after. I think you guys should have it that Friday before, and we try our darndest to get it. Sometimes it does feed in. How else are you guys supposed to get anything done if it doesn't come in sometimes a little bit that Monday or Tuesday or something? Sometimes that happens. I think you guys should be able to do that for our residents. I mean, but again, it's taking the time to look at it too. And if it was there this morning, you're asking items that were here. I mean, I don't know.
Can I ask Hector, are we being unreasonable to get our information?
That's not Hector's place. He offers legal advice. Is there anything in here that you guys want to go over with regards to
That's not
the
important.
bills? No, it's not legal advice. Is there anything that you want to go over with regards to the Five Diamond bills, or Mike, do you want to table it?
I don't want to go over anything.
I'll second it.
You'll second what?
I made a motion to table it.
I didn't do it.
Yeah, you
You didn't make a motion.
I didn't make a motion, I said, I don't
Oh,
want to
You
discuss
made a
it.
motion to table.
Yeah.
I don't believe
That's
he did.
right.
He said he would make a motion every
Oh,
time.
okay.
That's what he
So
said.
are you making a motion or not?
No, I just don't want to make, I don't want to discuss this.
Okay, I'll make a motion to table this.
Is there a second? All in favor? Opposed? Was that a motion for a date uncertain or certain, Larry?
Might as well make it the next meeting, the 12th.
Is there any other information you'd like in your packet than what you have right now?
Potentially, yes. Don't know because I just got that information today.
I guess I have a question then. I believe it's that meeting that Planner Dupler is supposed to be here, and I think someone of my board members to the right here is arranging that. Is he sending his information ahead of time, or what?
Can we talk about that?
As far as I'm concerned, yeah.
Yes, as it was tabled in June to talk about waiving the invoices from Five Diamonds, June 13th, to refresh everybody's memory, we tabled it. We tabled it because Roger had his heart attack and was not here to answer specific questions. And we felt and voted upon that it would be better served if Roger was here to answer some questions in regard to these invoices. Now, we did, on the following agenda, virtually set aside 2 hours pay for his presence, and that was agreed on unanimously. I contacted Roger after receiving the nod from the board for 2 hours, and Rogers was very willing to answer any questions we have on paper. He, however, does not want to have or be present for the deliberation.
So have you asked him any questions to answer on paper, and are we getting a bill for that?
Negative.
Do you intend to ask him any questions to answer on paper?
Trick question, negative.
Not a trick question, very straightforward question.
I think we'll move on. Reconsideration of the plan of operation for Walgreens. What they're asking for is a 24-hour store. The resident that will be most affected by this has spoke up earlier this evening and has addressed that she doesn't have any concerns over that and looks forward to the development moving forward. Mr. Lake is in the audience if you want to come on forward and talk to us a little bit about what you're up against.
Good evening again. My name is Mark Lake.
I don't think so.
There it is, that's the key.
Must be on. Or off. Mark Lake, W228N745 Westbound Drive, Waukesha, Wisconsin. I represent Everett Cummings, who is now the current owner of the parcels that are listed on your form. When I was here last, I asked for the plan of operation. We went through the plan of operation, and the last thing that was discussed was the hours that were requested. The plan commission recommended approval of the hours, which were requested as 24 hours. And then the town board limited those hours to 24-hour pharmacy and then 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. regular normal store hours. Unfortunately, that's not good enough for Walgreens. And as such, most likely, as such, Walgreens, and let me give you a little background. Walgreens wants to be competitive in the market. And be competitive in the market, they have to have the same level playing field as their competitors, namely Pick and Save, Walmart, and such. And those are 24-hour stores. Now, having said that, can I guarantee this is going to be a 24-hour store? No. Some of the plans that were submitted show 24 hours, but that's the way we turn in all our plans, to show 24 hours. Walgreens has the desire or wants to have the ability to have a 24-hour store if the manager should choose and ask corporate whether or not they can. Walgreens usually only has one store in a market that's 24 hours, and it happens to be on Sunset Drive. I couldn't say that they would actually want to turn this one into a 24-hour store, but per our lease with them, they request that the store be 24 hours. And short of that, I'm not sure what we can do, except for ask for a 24-hour store so that they can be fairly judged by the citizens of the community. Are they a good corporate citizen? Have they done everything they've been asked of? Have they developed a property that the town could be proud of? Is it providing the tax base that the town is requesting? Are the neighbors comfortable with the store? To be essentially shortchanged or judged guilty before the store opens with a requirement that they not be open for 24 hours, I think is a disservice to a national company who is serving the community, providing medical supplies, providing that unknown thing from their store, right? Whether it's Band-Aids or milk or eggs or whatever, in the middle of the night. Walgreens is not a C-store in the likes of a Kwik-Trip or a Speedway or one of the other places. People don't run in real quick and get their soda or whatever it is. That's not how the store is set up there. You can't even get straight in the store and go around without having to go around in circles in order to get to a checkout. And besides the fact that you're on 50 or 60 cameras. So the idea that I guess that there's certain riffraff or whatever that would be showing up at a Walgreens in the middle of the night, I think is most likely unfounded. So I guess my request is 24 hours as was recommended by the Planning Commission, and let Walgreens prove to you that they are a good corporate citizen, and as such, let them weather the storm. If there's a problem, that's what the managers are for. They're here to react to a problem being presented. They're rated by corporate as to how they take care of their neighborhood, how they take care of their neighbors, how they take care of their parking lot, how they take care of the potential noise or poor conditions of their lot. So I thank you very much, and our request is 24 hours. If that's what they should choose, that's what it will be. Not sure what they're really going to want to do, but their current request is for a 24-hour store.
Mr. Lake, a quick question. Are you, is the project going to move forward whether with Aldi's and or Walgreens if it does not have 24-hour access?
No.
Thank you. Planner Rybacek, do you have some commentary on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had looked over the Walgreens application that was done earlier this year. I was not here at the time. It was done by the former planner. But on a similar or maybe unrelated topic, I was also asked to look over the Walmart application that was done at the end of last year. They do have similar services that they will be providing to the community. To get right down to the brass tacks, the town did approve the Walmart neighborhood grocery store, and as part of that approval, they did grant them 24-hour operation. So I don't know, I'm not going to sit before you and say that I know every aspect of each one of the applications, but at least at the surface, looking at the board minutes, looking over some of the applications, the plan of operation, that they do seem to be similar in nature. So I had just raised the question as to why did one get the 24-hour occupancy and yet the other did not. So that was just the information that I had provided back to Clerk Salentine and Chairman Marek. I did not go above and beyond that level of research, just beside of what I've shared with you.
Thank you.
So your comparison of the neighborhood Walmart food store located on Highway 164 in a almost industrial, commercial neighborhood versus the corner of Sunset abutting a residential neighborhood, would those be similar to you? I mean, I think the obvious answer is probably not, right?
Well, the Walmart itself, though, does have residential that abuts the back as well. Granted, it's the loading dock area. But
Jamie, what is the, how far away would be the homes at the Walmart versus the homes that would abut the Walgreens property, roughly?
I have clients with those offices right there, and it's almost pretty distant away. It's a boxing bell.
I don't know if I have a plan in front of me that would allow me to answer that question, because it looks like the Walmart site just only has the site, it doesn't have any surrounding context.
Well, I received a call from Mark Lake on Monday to introduce this topic to me. And just from your words here, Mark, I wrote down some notes that, conversations I've had with neighbors, things that have happened in the town hall here. A few weeks back, we had a commercial development in Dunkin' Donuts. They're a national chain, they're professional, they know how to make money at their business, and they know that they need a drive-through to drive 30% of their business. We should trust that they know how to run their business and that they'll be a good corporate citizen, and that safety would be one of their paramount concerns. Yet our Plan Commission did, for the members that have served on the Plan Commission for greater than a year, those Plan Commission members, with the exception of Mr. Flanagan, did a complete 180 after having them jump through circles and hoops to redesign a drive-through, and said, holy cow, the neighbors across the street on Sunset are gonna see your headlights. Holy cow, we're gonna have increased traffic flow in an area where people walk. This is dangerous, we can't do it. And in that light, we'll share some of the comments I received. No thanks, we don't want any Twinkie runners at 2 o'clock in the morning getting confused with how they get back on Sunset and zipping through our subdivision intoxicated. No thanks, we're not interested in having 2 24-hour Walgreens within Sunset Drive. They cited safety concerns, safety for their children, safety for their property, their possessions, their way of life. They had lots of concerns about that. You cited that Walgreens likes to have the same level of play. You cited Pick and Save. Pick and Save is not a 24-hour store within the Fox Run Mall. CVS is not a 24-hour store within the Fox Run Mall. The shops at Fox River, excuse me. Target shuts down at 10 o'clock. The only 24-hour convenient drugstore, other than, as you say, the Kwik-Trip PDQ kind of things, within that strip, I mean, say, hey, Walmart's open 24 hours, that's a very different store, quite honestly, is the other Walgreens. And if I gotta have a Twinkie and a bag of Doritos and a jug of Gatorade, can I not drive to the other Walgreens where It's already there. They're planning nothing but commercial development around it. The new Meyer store is back on, right? And they're gonna redevelop the Kmart. Seems like that would be a central location for good policing to happen. Good traffic flow will occur, and it's away from the residences that really don't want to see the 24-hour Dunkin' Donuts. So I guess I'll wait to hear your answers.
Well, first of all,
Okay,
we're
let me
not
address a couple of
Dunkin'
things.
Donuts.
Let me address a couple of things first. First of all, Joe, the reason that the Dunkin' Donuts was turned down wasn't because they were 24 hours, it wasn't because they had a drive-through, it wasn't because they weren't a company, it wasn't because they weren't a company store. There is an ordinance in place that says you can't have a drive-through. There is an ordinance in place that says you can't have a second entry and exit onto Prairie Avenue.
Yet
Secondly,
they supplied proof that they could accomplish both of those, and that plan commission approved the plan with the drive-through, with the second entrance onto Prairie, and made the developer go get that stuff done. I mean, the hypocrisy of what took place there is largely unmatched.
no, Joe, there is an ordinance in place that says you can't have it.
And
Approve
we
all
had
you
the
want. Don't
ability to
overtalk me,
change.
please. The ordinances that the town has also state that you look to the chair to be recognized before you speak. Please follow that. Now, there's an ordinance in place that says there's no drive-throughs and that there's no second driveway on that parcel. Excuse me, next. Those are franchises. Those are not company stores. There's a big difference between a multi-billion-dollar corporation and company stores and a franchisee operating a store. Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Lake, please go ahead.
Couple things. One, we're not Dunkin' Donuts. We provide a service. If the store is gonna be open for 24 hours, there's a reason. And that would be that customers are requesting that another store in the market be open for 24 hours. Can I guarantee that it'll be a 24-hour store? No. Is it gonna be a 24-hour store? I don't really know, and we won't know until the store opens up. Having said that, the store is actually, to have a concern about the subdivision behind the Walgreens, there is no direct access to the subdivision behind. There is no direct line of sight to the subdivision behind. The Walgreens in and of itself is actually gonna be 20 feet below Mrs. Glade's house. And on top of that, there's gonna be a fence, and they have to follow all noise ordinances, they have to follow all light pollution ordinances. And the customers that attend, that go to a Walgreens, if it's requested, are not people that are running out to go and buy a Twinkie. They're not out there to go and get their Gatorade. It's easier for them to go to a Kwik-Trip or a Speedway or a whatever other gas station, C-store that's around than it is to go to a Walgreens. It's hard to get into a Walgreens, go get what you want in the back of the store, come back and follow through with security, and then get to the register. Whereas in a Kwik-Trip, you walk in, you get your soda, when you walk to the checkout, which is right by the front door. The request by Walgreens is not an unreasonable request. It says that they want to be fairly judged by their neighbors, by the community. They want to be fairly judged. They want to be just like every other store. Every other Walgreens store has 24-hour access as part of their approval. Every one of them. Do they choose to operate 24 hours? No. But every store has 24 hours as part of their lease for approval. And then the manager, along with the operations, gets to determine what the actual hours of the store are. If they were gonna be a true 24-hour store, at some point in time, they would have to come in for a signage change, they'd have to come in for all sorts of other changes if they were gonna be a 24-hour store. Now, the site plan that you have, the elevations say 24-hour pharmacy on it, but that's a stock elevation for their new prototype. We haven't been told they were gonna be a 24-hour store, but I was told that it's part of the lease, we signed the lease, we purchased the property under the said lease. And my partner said, if we can't get a 24-hour store, which is a requirement of the lease, we're not gonna build.
Mr.
We
Chairman,
will
can
leave the
I,
home.
can I ask the question either of Planner Barczyk or Attorney De La Mora, just for the sake of discussion for a minute, assume that we were to look favorably upon this request and assume that down the line something proved to be problematic, whatever that might be with regard to the 24-hour operation. Are there, or what alternatives would be available to the town board to address that issue should such a circumstance occur and the majority of the town board were to deem that something truly was problematic? Do we have options available to us?
Looking back at the approval that you had done for the Walmart neighborhood grocery store, you actually wrote the condition in there that it says hours of operation to be 24 hours until it becomes an issue. So you had given yourself some language there in the approval that if, there was some complaints that were brought before the town, that you could potentially bring it back and rediscuss it. I also think that you probably have other nuisance provisions in your code of ordinances that in such a manner, or if a complaint came to the town, I think that it could be addressed there, but I'll defer to the town attorney in that case.
First of all, any modification in the plan of operation has to go before the plan commission and the town board. I have not been asked to review any material with regards to this presentation which Mr. Lake has presented. The modification of plans of operation can be a difficult thing depending on the evidence that you have to show that there's a reasonable basis for doing that. The burden falls to the town and the cost falls to the town. In my experience, there's a very, very large Walgreens drugstore at the corner of Moreland and Blue Mountain Road. That is not a 24-hour store. And the Village of Elm Grove restricts the hours there primarily because it views itself as largely a residential community. This may be a different situation. Some communities, in my experience, allow an operation to start up and then, depending on how things proceed, particularly the synergy that may be if there are different developments in that tract, relax the rules, but there's no set formula that's prescribed by any ordinance of the town that I know of that bars you from, assuming you follow the procedure, setting up a modification of the plan of operation, and then imposing on yourself the burden of ultimately evaluating a situation that you might think could warrant the restriction of the hours.
My question, and thank you very, very much for your comments, my question was a little bit different. My question was, if, and thank you for the heads up with the opinion this needs to go to the Plan Commission first. My question is, if the Plan Commission were to recommend that the town board would look favorably upon this request, what options are available to the town to address the matter if it becomes problematic? That's my question.
Oh, well, the one which the planner has just described, detailed language which describes what the trigger points will be for holding a review of the situation. This is not a
Can you
conditional.
give me an example of a trigger point, please?
Okay, if you have more than a half a dozen neighbor complaints about noise in a given time period, that could be a trigger point. If you have an arrest that might take place there, or in terms of consumption of alcohol, it's going to be a place where people will naturally gravitate to because it will be open. Whatever you think would be an appropriate set of circumstances that would cause you to rethink, assume for the moment that you are in agreement with Mr. Lake's comments. What would you individually feel would cause you to rethink that situation? That's what you would include in the plan of operation, in fairness to the operator.
Sure, then my question, I guess, to you, Mr. Lake, would be, assuming, again, we were to go ahead and proceed in that manner, I mean, the thing that Planner Barczyk wrote there that had a bit of a qualification on that, would something along those lines be acceptable to you?
Yes, and that's, again, that's assuming, the store is a 24-hour store as well. I mean, to be restrictive, to say unless something occurs, whatever the language you said, sorry, that type of language is fine, and that's generally speaking what the noise ordinance says, is if there's something that comes up and it needs to be addressed, the plan commission, town board can address it.
Do you, and I guess a follow-up question, do you have any reason to take exception to the fact that the council, the attorney's given to us that this needs to be addressed first by the plan commission? Do you have any response to that?
It was addressed by the plan commission. The plan commission recommended with the same exact language. So it was a recommendation to the town board, and I'm just requesting the town board revisit it.
So what you're saying is the language that was approved by the town board is by the town plan commission is in keeping with your request at this point in time. The town board didn't fully accept that or back away from it, so you're asking the town board to revisit at this point in time, and basically come down in the same place that the plan commission did originally. Is that the essence of it? Thank you. Does that change your opinion, then, Attorney De La Mora, as to the need to this to go back to the plan commission in as much as that was your
Assuming that
original
can be
recommendation?
confirmed, I, quite frankly, was not asked to do anything, so I don't have a specific recall of what the exact scope of the recommendation of the plan commission was, but if in fact the plan commission did recommend that, then it's up to the board to take up the matter, revisit the matter.
Thank you.
Have it?
Yes.
I apologize, Supervisor Fischer. The language that I read to you is out of the joint meeting with the Plan Commission and Town Board that was held on Thursday, July 11th of 2013. And in there, a motion was made with 3 conditions. Condition 1 was hours of operation to be 24 hours until it becomes an issue. Condition 2 was all applicable permits, town and county. And condition 3 was payment of town fees and expenses. It was then at the town board meeting on Thursday, July 11th of 2013, so it must have been the same evening.
Yes.
The town board altered the plan commission's recommendation by saying that condition 1 is a 24-hour pharmacy, and condition 2 is business hours of operation at 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Can you confirm, was the plan commission's recommendation a unanimous recommendation?
Says second by Commissioner Fischer, motion approved, Buckholz nay.
And I guess,
It is.
If I'm reading that correctly.
It is unanimous.
It was unanimous?
That was, who's right? Was what name?
I'm sorry, who called said name?
That's
Sorry,
correct.
I was reading the wrong motion.
Okay, well, I'll let other people move ahead with the discussion with that qualification there. I certainly will support the recommendation that the Plan Commission originally made back in July.
Mr. Laska?
Mr. Lake, Walgreens is a top-flight organization and business in that's my opinion. And I would love to see that business there next to Aldi's. But let me try this. This is a trust factor here. You trust us, we trust you.
I hope so, yes, absolutely.
Okay. My way of thinking is, what was cited just a little bit earlier in reverse. We go 24/7 with the pharmacy aspect. And we go to 10 p.m. to start with, like was indicated earlier, like the board decided upon. If in fact there are no parties in the parking lot, there's things that can't be controlled, and you often said your managers are A-okay. Well, they don't have much control of what goes on outside and the people that just happen to be there. What would be a holdup, if you will, of establishing that 10 p.m., coming back after 6 months, proving Walgreens proved themselves to us, no complaints, no issues, this board reconsiders, and maybe that way what we do is we ensure and prove to the neighbors after 6 months or a year that Walgreens is a good neighbor. There will be no problems. This last year hasn't shown it. Then, for some of the residents who are not happy about the 24, okay, I think that would carry some weight. You've already proved your trust. Walgreens already proved their trust. It's up to us to carry the ball and reconsider. Is that kind of fair? More than kind of fair?
And no offense, but I say no, because the current approval right now is 24-hour pharmacy and 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And that's not acceptable to Walgreens. The way I look at that is, Walgreens is guilty of something. You don't trust them. They're guilty. And so you don't allow them to have your 24 hours up front. So they're guilty first, then they have to prove that they're nice, and then you're gonna let them have something, then you're gonna have something later. Problem is they didn't do anything wrong. You said they're a great, good company, and they are a good company. They do provide a good service. They are a good neighbor. And in the years that we've been developing Walgreens, we've never had problems with Walgreens having even to switch back down from 24 hours because of a neighborhood uproar, or because there's parties all night long, or there's whatever. We've never had that. It's only been at the request of the manager that there wasn't enough traffic in the middle of the night to warrant the 24-hour store. Like I said in the beginning, I don't even know if this is gonna be a 24-hour store. They only put a 24-hour store like every 7 miles, if you will. There's one down the street, which is 2.5 miles away. There's one in Berlin at Moreland International. There's one in Wauwatosa at Mayfair Road. The reason why the one store at Moreland and Greenfield is a 24-hour store, because there's one 2 miles away. So it doesn't need to be there. When you have them every 7 miles, that's enough. Now, can I guarantee that it won't be a 24-hour store? Can I guarantee that they might say, you know, we like this one more than that one? No. But that one is more centrally located than one that would be over here, which is on the edge of the community. Because they can go, I'm not even sure where they can go north for a store up in the Pewaukee area, which is closer to some of those people. You can go south over to West Dallas. I mean, there's not that many 24-hour stores, nor do they want to, because there's so many there's only so many people that need to be out at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm sure it's a loss center for them, but they offer it as a convenience. But I don't want to take that away from them, even before they even have a chance to try and be a good member of this community, which unfortunately, if I don't get a 24-hour store, we're not gonna go.
Mr. Lake, is a downtown store 24 hours? Downtown location?
No, just Sunset stores. Sunset, and then New Berlin, and then Mayfair Road, and then the one on southwest on Greenfield and Highway 100 in West Dallas. Then they have a couple of them in Milwaukee, but not even the ones in Milwaukee there. You look at a map, they're like 5 to 7 miles apart. They're not any closer than that. And this one's only 2.5 miles from the street. And for the life of me, I can't figure out how or why they would want to pick up, re-sign, spend all that money on doing that, and have 2 stores right next to each other where it's not like that at all in the state of Wisconsin, anywhere. That they would have 2 stores that are 2 24-hour stores right next to each other.
Simply, I'm sorry,
Sorry.
simply translated, what I hear Mr. Lake asking for is the presumption of innocence before he's judged guilty, and I find that a profoundly American and attractive concept, so I support it.
I would ask that you consider a few things, Brian, before you jump. In Oconomowoc, Kwik-Trip, very well-recognized national company, was denied putting a gas station in Pabst Farms because, quite honestly, the neighbors don't want it, the city doesn't want it. Walmart in New Berlin is a hotly contested issue, and the list goes on. Target, another company, very prominent, very well-recognized, and neighbors resisted quite strongly having their center developed. When you say that you can't guarantee that they won't be a 24-hour store, we can. Communities do. Attorney De La Mora just provided a community that said, we don't want it to be a 24-hour store. We don't want that type of operational business. And the community really has, you can say that we can always come and knock on the door and say, you naughty Walgreens, you've got people drinking in your parking lot, or you've got an arrest, or there's too much noise going on. But the burden then, to prove that in a court, is on us. And why would we want to put the taxpayer in that position to say, hey, this Walgreens has turned into a real thorn in the community? Whatever that thorn is, there's a shooting there, there's an armed robbery. Armed robberies are up on Sunset since the shops went in. So is that enough to trigger it? And then do we go and say to Walgreens, oh, hey, geez, you guys got to now shut down at 10 o'clock instead of being open 24 hours? And then Walgreens say, well, heck, we produce 30% of our revenue between the hours of 10 o'clock and 6 o'clock in the morning. Now you've harmed us, you approved this, now we're going to sue you for the difference, and we've got corporate attorneys on staff. We just, here you go. I mean, that's what Kwik-Trip is doing, right? The community said no, they rejected them, and what does Kwik-Trip do? They're suing the community. So at this point in time, we have the ability, we talk about this all the time. We talked about it with 5 Diamond, we talk about it with other developments that come in. We can control this development. We can talk about the light candles and the hours of operation. The neighbors in the community, and I understand that Janet has an impact. But the other neighbors in the community, their voices are equally as strong, they are equally as passionate. A lot of them don't want the businesses there anyway, but they are passionately engaged in saying they do not want it 24 hours. They are not interested in that clientele. That is not the trend in the area to have 24-hour stores, as demonstrated by my previous notations of CVS, Pick and Save, and Target. It's just not what that area is or is becoming. And if it does become that, if it becomes the commercial mecca, you can come back. And the town board may look at that and say, geez, this whole situation has really changed. It's no longer, as Elm Grove considers themselves the bedroom community, it's not that kind of a corner. You can come back and change that. But for us to take on the burden of saying, we have to now prove that you've been a bad neighbor, I mean, I can't even begin to define what that might be. Is that a cigarette? Is that a Walgreens plastic bag blowing into a neighbor's yard? I mean, how are you gonna shut down a business for that?
Our request for 24 hours came on the very first day in March of 2009, when we turned in my first application. When we came in for a rezoning, I submitted a plan for a 24-hour store, and we haven't changed since.
And
Why is it in the
that-
last meeting?
Because that discussion, and you know quite well, the site plan of operation never really got thoroughly exercised because the hurdle that was in front of this project for a significant period of time was the bypass. It was the reason, why do you even want to talk about the site plan? We didn't even know where the bypass was gonna be. We were deciding whether or not this was gonna even be a project that we would rezone the property and put the new land use together because we didn't know where the bypass was going. The record's quite
So
clear on
what
that.
do you want me to build there now? Now, if it's zoned properly, I can ask Kwik-Trip if they want to move down the corner. You want me to put a Kwik-Trip there, which will be coming for 24 hours zoning, and you're gonna tell them no there too? You want me to have, a Sonic come in, loudspeakers, everything? Is that what you want?
Well, we could control that, couldn't we? This is the time that a body of government that represents the town comes in and says, we're gonna control the type of development. We're gonna say no to the Dunkin' Donuts because we feel that we don't wanna, we have the authority to change that. We have the county agreeing to change that language, but the planning commission just decides, we're not going to change that language. It was an arbitrary, hypocritical decision that they made.
I
This is-
disagree with that.
That's fine,
It's
but
not
except for Bob
arbitrary.
Flanagan, it was not, Bob Flanagan was not, and the other members that hadn't served for years, I stated earlier. But to say that, you know, that just because you turned in a site plan, that everybody was, oh yeah, that'll be a 24-hour store, was never discussed until that meeting. And when that was brought up, I objected to it immediately because I knew it was a problem for the neighborhood. The neighborhood didn't want that. And we talked, we agreed that it made sense for the pharmacy to be open 24 hours via the drive-through because there could be situations where people in the community needed to get pharmaceuticals. They could go get those that way.
Mr. Mansky, I had to ask, where exactly are all these neighbors that are opposed to this? They weren't here when we approved the Walgreens a while back. Excuse me.
Go ahead.
They're not here tonight. I've never seen a letter or an email. All we have is your word.
Well, I'm a neighbor and Janet Glade is a neighbor, so you have 50% representation, right? Janet says yes, and I say that I have neighbors that would say no. I would also tell you, John, that the neighbors are growing quite weary with amended agendas. They don't know if they need to look at the agenda on Wednesday night at midnight to understand what's going to be discussed. Some of them don't want to come to the meetings anymore because they simply don't even know when is it going to be possible for them to know what's going to happen and know what's going to be on the agenda, and will we listen to it? I would tell you, pick up the phone and call Michael Bell, owner of a business in town, lives in that area, right adjacent there. Give him a call. See what he thinks about coming to meetings. See what he thinks about the agenda preparation. See what he thinks about 24-hour Walgreens. And then ask him how many relatives he has in that neighborhood, how many residents he has spoken with in that neighborhood, and what their opinion is. And I think you will get quite an emphatic hell no. But call him. He'll tell you himself.
What business does he own?
Complete auto towing and recovery.
Thank you. Well, once again, my question still stands. Where were all these neighbors at the last meeting that Walgreens was approved? And where are all those neighbors that are so opposed, so vehemently opposed to this tonight?
I've got
They're sitting at home believing that you will do what you want to do regardless of what they say, because they have lost faith in the fact that a town government or a government at all will listen to them and stand up for what they say.
Oddly enough, I can't change the hours of operation by myself, so I can't do what I want to do.
I understand.
Mr. Alaska?
Yeah. At the end of the agenda, the last 4 points, 5 points are italicized in bold. Apparently, these are late coming onto the agenda. In other words, the agenda is processed and these are added at some point. Am I correct in that statement?
Yes.
Okay, just for that reason, and probably one of the reasons that Joe is referring to, people may look at the agenda and then all of a sudden it changes, so we don't pack the room here of people that are honestly interested in this. Because of this italicized agenda additions, possibly.
Thank you, Mr. Alaska. My question still stands. At the meeting, when we approved the Walgreens, where were all of the people opposed to the 24-hour Walgreens? There was nobody that spoke in opposition to the Walgreens being there, whether it was an 8-hour Walgreens or a 12-hour or a 24-hour Walgreens. Nobody spoke in opposition. We didn't receive any emails. We didn't get any letters. We had nothing. The only thing we had was support for it. Where are all the people? Mr. Fisher?
And I mean, am I not correct that many of them in fairly close proximity to the site received letters, did they not, prior to the public hearing for the rezoning? Jamie's shaking her head. Didn't
There would be
the town-
300 feet, whomever
300
that would
feet,
be.
So they had letters sent to them and chose not to show up.
Well, that's somewhat of a misrepresentation. Within 300 feet, there were people who received letters. But if you look at the aerial footprint of that, there were more residents that were upset about the fact that they didn't receive notification this time as they had in the past, because in the past, the town took the position to notify the entire subdivision and not just the 300 feet.
Well, then they should have come to the meeting or sent an email and expressed their concern. That's the way it works.
I don't know if this is
Oh,
proper
good luck.
procedure or not.
It is not.
Oh,
Good
okay.
luck.
It is not, but it is at the chair's discretion to allow citizens' comments as he chooses. Check the ordinances. Mrs. Glade, if you'd like to speak, please do so. Check the ordinances.
Being right next door, of course, I'm very interested in this. And I was wondering if you were listening to what Mr. Wick said. He said, if Walgreens does not go in, if you do not give him 24 hours, well, he will not build. Do you realize what that could mean? He's closed on the houses, he owns the property, he's going to build whatever he can next to me. And I know it's going to be something that I'm not going to like more than the Walgreens. So did you all hear that? I mean, he has to build something, he owns the land, he's going to build whatever he can get past. And there are a lot of things I'm not gonna like a restaurant, possibly, an apartment building. I would prefer Walgreens, Aldi's. And as far as, I agree with Mr. Chairman Marek, I've gone to all of these meetings. I'm usually the only one there. Nobody's there saying anything against Walgreens. It's usually just me, and I was against it for a long, long time, and I was usually the only one talking. Nobody else came, not to the county, not to the city, and there's nobody here tonight except me. So I'll have to say what he said, where are they? If they were really that opposed to Walgreens, they would be here.
Thank you.
Or they would have called or emailed or done something. And as far as, it's now commercial, do you realize what I have across the street? It's nothing but commercial. It's nothing but lights and traffic and noise. And there has been a lot of crime already. I had a dead body in my backyard a few years ago. So there's already crime. There's not gonna be any more with Walgreens, probably less, because he's gonna have lights on, he's gonna have people there all the time watching. So I think it would be even less. So I think you really need to consider, if you say no to Mr. Lake, what will go in next to me.
Thank you. And I'm glad we agree on something.
It's a first.
May I speak?
Sure.
Why not?
I just want to go on record.
I don't think it's on, but it's gonna.
There you go.
Sorry. I just want to go on record that every time this has come up, I've opposed the Aldis and the Walgreens. Not because I'm against either one of the corporations. I see vacant stores everywhere, and I don't see building new stuff and leaving the old stuff empty. That's my reason.
Thank you. All right, let's move on. Is there any further discussion from the board? I would make a motion that we amend the previous recommendation for a limited hour Walgreens, and we accept the recommendation from the Town Plan Commission for a 24-hour Walgreens at the site of Genesee and Sunset Road.
Second.
Any further discussion? Would you read back the motion, please, Clerk Singleton?
Chairman Marek moved to amend the previous motion from the previous motion, which stated
Limited hours, 24-hour
24-hour
pharmacy.
pharmacy and then 7 to 10 or something. 6 to 10 p.m. Thank you. And move the store to a 24-hour store.
Roll call vote, please.
Chairman Marek?
Yes.
Supervisor Bansky?
No.
Supervisor Wolf?
No.
Supervisor Laska?
No.
Supervisor Fischer?
Yes.
Motion failed.
Moving on, 2013 budget amendments. This refers largely to